the two experiences, the two of let's say, first, the abduction phenomena, which we see, and what these people encounter and what they report back, and the biblical narrative concerning angelic beings are so similar, in my opinion, which makes the case that we're looking at the return of the fallen angels, which is another sort of nail in the coffin of that whole idea that Jesus was trying to tell us when he points to, as the Son of Man returns, so as in the days of Noah, so it will be when the Son of Man returns. As in the days of Noah, so it will be when the Son of Man returns. That differentiates the days of Noah from any other time is the presence of the B'nai Elohim, the fallen angels. Mm-hmm. What's happening now, in my opinion, the fallen angels are back. They are manifesting openly. They move in a currency of fear. And again, the properties that these fallen angels have, which seem, and they are supernatural to us, that is normal. That's just how they were created. Now, and the parallel I use is this. Adolf Hitler is a human being, and Johannes Salk is a human being. Mm-hmm. Hitler has the same senses. You know, he can see, hear, touch, smell, taste, and then he can take all that and use his computer brain, right, which the brain essentially is a computer, and memory banks and all the different gifts we have to do good or evil. Hitler chooses to do some of the most horrific acts in all of history. On the other, concurrently, Johannes Salk has exactly the same inherent abilities, but chooses to do something good and invents the polio vaccine, which saves hundreds of thousands of people's lives. And I don't mean that, in the sense of dying, but instead of being crippled by this horrible disease. Mm-hmm. So the bottom line is it's the same in the angelic kingdom. They both, the good guys and the bad guys, have the same properties that are inherent to them, the same powers that are inherent to them. That's just who they are, how they were created. It's how they operate. But one, of course, is incredibly wicked, as Lawrence Gray pointed out, and the other is incredibly good. But they move in the same way, the same type of physics, which we know nothing about. Hence, what we're looking at, in my opinion, is interdimensional beings, i.e. fallen angels, manifesting just like Jesus told us that they would 2,000 years ago.
I would also point out that Dr. John Mack, the late Dr. John Mack of Harvard University, did a comparison, a study on the reports of abductees and the reports of people who claim to have been victims of satanic ritual abuse, and found about 30 different points of correlation in the stories between those two, which, again, supports your conclusion that what we're dealing with here with the alien abduction phenomenon is not extraterrestrials performing experiments on humans, but fallen angels or their minions doing it. Now, I find it interesting you talked with Dr. David Jacobs. Now, he is from Temple University, is that correct?
Correct, yeah.
And Dr. Jacobs is, if I don't remember incorrectly, Dr. Jacobs is a non-believer.
Correct.
What was his take on this?
Well, and that's the thing. Unlike the way I am censored from different UFO symposiums and everything else because of my so-called Christian worldview, no one's censored here. Let me give you a quick heads up. Dr. Jacobs, Karina Sables, Whitney White-Ashley, Dr. Roger Lear, Jesse Marcel, Major George Fowler, Dr. Lynn Katai, and that's it, are non-Christians. They're not Christians. They have different paradigms, different worldviews than we do. Then there's other Christians that kind of balance that out. So my book was open to all points of view. I don't editorialize on anyone. If you read the book, there's no editorialization on my part. I give a forward, I give an intro and an outro, kind of wrap things up at the end when I say what does it all mean, and I weigh in on my theory, not on their theory. I weigh in on what I believe all this stuff is. And it's interesting. Dr. Jacobs looks at this from a completely a secular scientific point of view. He believes that what we're looking at, like I do, is very nefarious and malevolent, that there is a vigorous breeding program going on with these entities. There is an end game. The end game, we have actually come close to it. He believes they are beginning to integrate hybrids which can pass for human, completely pass for human, but in fact have certain supernatural powers that would just stun us if we could see them. So that's what he believes is happening, and I'm right along with him. We're both, again, it goes back to that earlier quote that we may disagree as to what the causation is of the phenomena, but we can at least agree that it's real, the phenomena is real, it's burgeoning, and it's not going away. We need to deal with this. The church needs to wake up and understand that when this thing manifests, and it will manifest, when it openly manifests, when we see 3 Mile craft over the White House in L.A. and New York City and London and all the different places all over the planet, it's too late. It's too late. You can't backpedal at that point because your people will be deceived. They'll believe the lie. It'll be overwhelmed, just like Ricky Sorrells. But if people know this information beforehand, know that this is exactly what the coming great deception of a Luciferian endgame is, people can be warned. That's what I write about. That's what I do. That's what I talk about incessantly. I do this. This is my living. I mean, this is how I make my living.
One of the questions that was raised, that's been raised to us, as we've talked about this on PID Radio a number of times, is why would fallen angels need to rely on physical craft with a physical presence in order to move about?
Well, there are several ways. Look, when the Mothman, let's examine what I believe is a fallen angel manifesting. Mothman flew. There's no doubt about it. The witnesses were in a car, terrified, and this thing, they were up reaching speeds of 110 miles an hour, and this thing flew over the car effortlessly. All right? But as far as like interdimension stuff, when we see these entities moving from one dimension to another, which is what we see with the craft, the way the craft even change while you're looking at it into 2 or 3 different objects. We've seen that. We've seen video where something will appear. It looks like it's a flying humanoid. All of a sudden, out of the flying humanoid, something else comes out, and then later it flies away, and then later it comes back and goes back into the thing. I mean, there's some really, Linda Moulton Howe calls it high strangeness, and I would agree with her. It certainly is high strangeness. Here's the deal. We know that the enemy comes with all signs and lying wonders. Okay? So based on that scripture, this is part of the shock and awe. This is part of the lying signs and wonders that the enemy has produced, because people will believe. And here's the alien gospel, and I'm not making this up, okay? I wrote about it in Politics, Prophecy, and the Supernatural. I tried to warn people, and continually to do so, that this is the alien gospel, and it was based on, my research. This is what they're saying. Most people look at me, Christians anyway, look at me like, come on, Lynn, give me a break. Who believes this stuff? Well, in the Jerusalem Post, January 29th, 2009, so it's this year. I'm not pulling something that's 10 years old. This year, just a week ago or so, this is from a Jerusalem Post, and it's an article about the Raelians. The Raelians are under this guy called Rael, who's former race car driver Claude Verlehorn, okay? And this guy, years ago, this little 4-foot extraterrestrial with the big black eyes and stuff appeared to them and told him that, Claude, we are the Elohim. And they changed Verlehorn's name to Rael, and this is what they told him. Okay, this is their message of ET. Hang on to your hat, folks. ET. This is what the Elohim, this little 4-foot race of beings, told good old Claude. I quote: "We are the ones who designed all life on Earth. You mistook us for gods. We were at the origin of your main religions. Now that you are mature enough to understand this, we would like to enter an official contact through an embassy." This is right out of my book, Politics, Prophecy, and the Supernatural. The subtitle of that book is The Coming Great Deception and the Luciferian Endgame. In that book, there's a chapter called The Alien Gospel. This literally, is the alien gospel verbatim. This is it. This is the lie. I'm not making this stuff up. Already 70,000 people believe this. The Raelians are trying to create an embassy in and around Jerusalem to manifest this stuff. And they're just only one group. I mean, Blossom Goodchild, October 14th, was all over the internet. People were believing that there was going to be a huge craft that would sit there for 72 hours. It would be the revealing. We know the so-called extraterrestrial presence. She had contact from these beings called the Galactic Federation of Light. Once I heard about it, I immediately blogged against it, say these guys lie all the time. Nothing is going to happen. This is not how the revealing is going to come down, in my opinion. And, of course, October 15th came and went. Blossom Goodchild got on the YouTube again, did an apologetic, saying, I don't understand. They promised me. They told me. I believed them. How could they? She never used the word deceive, but that's where she was going. Why would they lie to me? Why would they mislead me, I think, is the strongest as she got. And yet these beings lie all the time. The bottom line is